Oh, it's one of our longest running segments on the show, a chance to get whatever car questions you have to get them answered.
We have 3 more, right? Ready to go today. The advice from a gentleman with decades of experience.
Right here, Peter Fink from Certified Transmission. Good to see you, Peter.
Hello.
You guys are making me feel really old.
No.
Decades.
We've been around 7 years. I mean, it's not like it's
Peter,
been that long.
that's why we like you, because right, you didn't just fall off the turnip truck,
that's
right?
true,
You know,
that's
you've
true.
been there, you've
Okay.
seen a lot of stuff, and it helps us out.
Done a lot of different things, that's for sure.
Well, and you've helped answer a lot of questions for people. Maybe saving them a trip to the
I
shop.
understand.
You know?
No, I was just teasing you a little bit.
Okay, we can
The
take
gray
it.
hair, you know, it kind of dates me pretty good.
I
So.
was going to say your hair's a little grayer since the last time. It was the beginning of the set.
Mike's got a little
I've got a few
too,
more
just-
too.
Okay.
And by the way, I'll be 90 and still have this color hair, so
that's awesome.
I don't have a
That's
leg to
awesome.
stand
All right, let's
on.
get to this first question. Chris is up first, and her question is, how can you tell how long you really have from the time your gas light comes on to when you'll actually run out of gas? Is there a general rule of thumb as to the number of miles?
Well, first of all, we don't like to see that little light, okay? But if it does, okay, typically on a normal car, it's going to be somewhere between 2 gallons to 4 gallons, depending upon how big a tank you have. Like my truck has got a 34-gallon tank, it's got 4 gallons. If you got a car that only has probably 14-gallon tank, it's probably going to be closer to 2. But generally, let's go back to, you really don't want to see that, and not because you're getting close to running out of gas. It's really hard on your fuel pump. We've talked about this many times on this show.
What does it do to the pump?
Well, the fuel pump is in the gas tank, okay, and the gasoline is what cools that electric motor, okay? And so you really don't want to run your car below a quarter of a tank, okay? I tell people, once it starts getting below a half a tank, just fill it back up, okay? It costs the same if you're filling up the top half or if you're only going in for $10 or $20, okay? Of course, today, $20 almost fills a tank,
Yeah.
which is nice, but you don't want to see that light, not because you're going to run out of gas, okay? But seriously, you're doing damage to the fuel pump.
so you may have to
okay?
replace the fuel pump earlier.
You
than
will, and you know what? A fuel pump's $500 at least,
Mm.
almost on every car. Okay, so keep the tank a half a tank or full, or a quarter of a tank or better.
You
for
do
sure,
that, don't you, Mary?
all the
Keep it
time.
a quarter
yeah,
above.
yep,
Me
sure
too.
thing.
I do too.
Frank is next. Frank
Also,
writes-
it probably says in the owner's manual how far you
I
can
bet
go.
it does, yeah.
I do like that.
I
No,
read those too.
I just try, as soon as the light comes on, I try to get to the next gas station. So I don't know that that's,
You
it's certainly
really
below a
shouldn't
quarter of
even
a
wait.
tank.
Yeah, you shouldn't wait because you're below a quarter of a
Consider,
tank when that light comes
consider
on.
that happen. Okay,
All
Frank is next, and he writes, my 2003 Oldsmobile Alero GLS has had trouble turning over, so I replaced the starter and the battery, and it still isn't better. What do I do?
All right. Well, again, I believe in testing, okay? I don't believe in throwing just parts at it, okay? Now, putting a battery in it going into the winter time, if the thing's 4 or 5 years old, it possibly needed it. A new starter, those things last forever, okay, and stuff. And obviously, we replaced both of them and still didn't fix the problem, okay? So it sounds like we've got an electrical problem possibly with the vehicle. First thing is we want to make sure the battery really that you're replacing is a new one, that it tests good. Second, you want to make sure the charging system's working, because literally, if you put a new battery in and that charging system isn't working, it'll drain that new battery within just literally 2-3 days, and you got the exact same problem again, okay? So I suspect it's an electrical problem, either not charging right. The other thing is the grounds, okay? On any of the cars, the ground probably isn't ground properly. They need a body ground that goes from the battery to the body. You also need one, the ground cable goes down to the engine block. We see a lot of those corroded, okay? The other thing is the cables get corroded by the battery, and then that battery cables can't carry that amperage properly, okay? So there's a lot of things, but it's all going to do with the cables, the electrical system all here. I mean, there is a chance you got a bad battery, slim to none, okay? Maybe a bad starter, depending where you bought it, okay? We talked about cheap parts, okay? All right? So that's a possibility. Truthfully, I wouldn't throw any more parts at it. You need to get to a good shop, get it checked out. They'll check it out for, you know, around $100 or less. They'll tell you what it needs, and then you can get it fixed properly, okay? So
Here's that third question. This one's from Ellen. And Ellen wonders, do I need to winterize my car Is that still a thing? I think it's a great question.
Great question. Definitely timing going into the cold weather this week and stuff and into winter, okay, coming up. Unless you bought a new car and the car's really only 1 or 2 years old, you do need to get it winterized, okay? Winterizing, the minimum you want to always do, we talk about, is the antifreeze, okay, to make sure that someone didn't put water in it, okay, or dilute it down. And believe it or not, antifreeze does wear out. Like I said, they got very deceptive names on antifreeze. They call it permanent antifreeze. Well, to me, that means it should last forever, I would think. Permanent means about 5 years, okay? So, I mean, that isn't to me very permanent, okay? Right. So, like I said, there's a little deceptive advertising. The other thing is, it's just a good time to make sure your car's running right. We talked about the electrical system, how important it is, the battery being properly. That thing's 5 years old. You know, if you're the type of person that has to put jumper cables on 20 times to believe you need a battery, okay, myself, I just like to replace it before it's trouble, okay? I like my car starting every time. I usually don't leave myself that much extra time to get there in case I get a problem with it not running right, okay, and stuff. So it's a good time to tune it up, change the oil, get the proper oil in there. They do have different weights for winter and summer sometimes anymore in some cars. Check your owner's manual. So yes, okay, unless it's a 1 or 2 year old car that's new, under 25,000 miles, yeah, it needs to get winterized.
You know what I noticed? One of the first cold days is I've got the sensor for my tire pressure.
Sure.
And it came on. So I went and checked my tire pressure. They need to stay about 38 psi, somewhere in that area.
Okay.
They were down to about 28, all four tires.
Okay.
So I think with the cold air.
The cold air will make the air pressure in the tire shrink, but you were probably never at 38. It didn't
Probably
shrink
not.
that
It didn't
much.
shrink that
it was
much,
maybe
no.
30, okay, and then it got
Thanks
down.
for pointing that out, Peter. But my point is, Peter, is the cold weather has an impact on your tire pressure.
It does. It does. The cold, it brings out the best in everything. I mean, the worst in everything, okay? Best for us guys in the repair business, okay? So.
Which is true, because we do see that a lot too in the colder months when the roads start getting slick and people start rocking their car in the snowbanks and then they tear up their transmissions. Peter, as we started the conversation, he started this business many years ago, and it has just grown because he does it the right way. And just, you know, when people need you, they know you've got a great reputation, so that's why we're glad to have you here. Good advice. 5 locations for certified transmission in our area, and you can make appointments there online at omaha.certifiedtransmission.com.
Peter, thanks a lot. Good to see you. Have a
Thank
great
you,
week.
Peter.
We'll see you next
All right, thank you. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good.
All right.
And your question could be featured during our next visit with Peter or a member of his certified transmission team. A few ways to get those questions to us. Email talkback@omahamorningblend.com. Leave questions on our Facebook wall or swing by there, omahamorningblend.com. That is the hub for all things blend.
All right, you might not have $10,000 to give to your favorite organization.
But you could help them win a community engagement package worth just that much. How? In our Metro Connection.